we have a question from Ross, who wants to use green screen to remove the background, and he's experiencing pixelation along the edges, and he says he spent 3 hours trying to figure that out, and he's even tried feathering. So that tells us one thing about what type of background removal tool he's used. But let's get into that and see what we can suggest for him. Before you start recording your image that you want to use on a green screen, check your camera settings. Now, it doesn't matter what you're recording in, whether you're using your phone or you're using a camera or whatever. There is some way to get into the settings to check to see what you're recording at. If you're recording in HD, you're basically recording in 2K. There are 2,000 pixels within the frame. But if you change that to 4K, then you have double the number of pixels, and that by itself would make it the pixels only half as big, and therefore the pixelation that might occur along the edge, which is a fairly common problem when you're doing a green screen backdrop. You see it on many people who do it. Then at least you have cut down the size of the pixels, and that should give you a better frame to begin with. Okay, he mentioned he got various widths on the shape of his neck. So we should be able to look at the properties of our recordings just by going here and going down to properties. And when we do that, we can see that this particular video was filmed in HD, which means it's 2K, 2,000 pixels within the frame, and also that the bit rate is 14,000. Let's compare that to this other video that we have up here. We look at the properties for that, and we can see that it was filmed in 4K. So we have double or maybe quadruple the number of pixels within this frame. There was also more frames per second, but mainly the bit rate was 106,000. This is important, and this is important. The smaller the pixels, the less the pixelation should look. But this is just kind of a preview to what we're trying to do. But it is a consideration. If you can reduce the size of the pixels, then anything along the border should be smaller and less visible, even though it's there. Okay, let's examine what tools are available for removing the background. We'll drop this higher resolution media onto the timeline, and we'll go ahead and match the media in this case. And if we go over here in the properties panel, we can see that in the AI tools, we have two tools. We have the AI portrait cutout and smart cutout. The chroma key is simply just for identifying identifying a specific color in there. It's not very useful in this case because well, we could even use this tool here for color picker. It's only going to pick out a certain color that matches that. So this in this case is not a useful tool. We want to get rid of the whole background. So that leaves us with two tools. But that being said, he might have been using this tool, and maybe he did have a green background to begin with. And here you have the option for feathering and so forth. We'll get into that a little bit later, but obviously this is not the tool of choice to remove the background. So let's examine the two other tools available. There's the AI portrait cutout, which is fairly automated and pretty good. And then there's the smart cutout. The smart cutout would be more if you have a non-person thing that you want to remove the background around because you identify what you want to cut out. But the AI portrait looks for a person in the picture. So if we activate the AI, it immediately cuts out the background. Now, normally you might see a little processing mode going on up here, but since I've been playing around with that, I think that kind of exists in the background. You have other choices, but for this purpose, we're only going to be using the non-cutout mode. Although I guess we got this here. human outline. We could try that. Let's see that. Anything with the pink diamond is going to cost you extra, but anything without the pink diamond can be done for free. So here we have the cutout. It has our pretty well defined. We can kind of eliminate that or kind of soften it. We're going to talk about other ways that we can soften it, but you can also feather it and so forth here. So this is a way that you can go in and adjust the edges of your picture. But this is not the ideal tool to be used because you can give it a different outline or something like that, and that's not what we're trying to do here. So this is not the tool that we would be using, although it has the same edge and feathering. So for our purposes and for Ross's purposes, he would want a clean cutout. And what this tool does, apply it to the entire screen here, but you can't really tell how good it is unless you go back to the basic mode here and you really scale it up, and all you want is this. Even if you don't want this to occupy the whole frame, you might still want to zoom in, because when you're zoomed out, you tend to have a bigger body than a head. It looks kind of weird. But anyway, you zoom in, and this is also going to increase or make it more visible, the pixelation that might occur. So let's see if we get anything. As you move, we keep an eye right here on the ear. We can see there is some pixelation there. And this is something fairly common in most people when you see that they have removed the background. But Filmora is in the automatic mode, is doing pretty well. It's lacking a little bit in here, and that's where you would want to feather it or increase the frame. But without any of these weird features here, you can't really do anything in this mode right here. So that's the first tool. For the second tool, let's just drop another copy of the image down there. The second tool is the Smart Cutout tool. This was actually created first, but if you have problems around the edges or whatever, and it only occurs in a portion of the clip, this has the tools necessary for fixing little and big parts of your clip. So you activate that, and then you click this. That brings up this Smart Cutout tool window specifically for this tool. And it has the ability to select something, erase something, move the image around, and fit it or zoom into certain levels, which you can also do manually. I'll show that in a second. It has this view here, as well as the transparent view. I like the black view. This really gives me a chance to see what's been selected. Also, the ability to reverse the mask to see what you've selected, what you've not selected. It helps you to really define the details. But the fact that you can zoom in allows you a lot more flexibility. Well, obviously that's way too far in on this particular picture, but once you moved in, you can move around and zoom in on the part that you want to detail a little bit more. I believe Ross was talking about the fact that parts of his neck were cut out and he didn't know how to get it back. Well, we'll look into that right here. But let's just go back to the fit, and let's go over some of the other tools on here. We got the brush size. If we are in the selection mode, whatever the default size is 30, and we can just more or less select something. And I'm going to do a lousy job selecting it on purpose. So something like that. And we can see that that's not what we selected. And also, I don't know why we got that there. So the eraser allows us, and if we have a big eraser here, because the eraser does not, you can't just draw a circle and get everything inside the circle. You only get what you actually erased. So the large brush could be very helpful in getting rid of all of these tools, all of this remnants here. I'm just going to use Control Z here to undo everything. Okay, so let's go ahead and select something, and then let's see how well it does. If we stay just inside the edge of what it is that we want to select, and the AI can figure out what it is that we want to select, it should be okay. Now, I didn't select the ears here, so let's see if we got that. And yet, it did a very good job on this particular selection. Now, what's unique about this is only for one frame. Okay, it didn't process the other parts. It only went to this frame. So in order to get it for the rest of the clip, we have to go into the advanced mode. In the advanced mode, we have these 5 buttons. And the idea is you select the frame in your clip that's most likely to capture everything, and then you can either go forward or backwards. So here we would be tracking backwards and applying this mask all the way in this direction. Likewise, here we would be applying it in this direction. The button in the middle, of course, is if this is where we started and we want the entire clip, it would then track first in one direction and then track in the other direction. These 2 buttons on the end, however, I'll get back to these in a second because those are for tracking between 2 keyframes. So let's just start with this, and let's incorporate a little bit something else that we don't want in the image, just so we can, let me see here if I select this. Okay, so now we have a little bit over here that we did not intend to select on purpose. But let's do the tracking in both directions so we can observe that. We see that the playhead is moving in this direction here, and when it's done, it will come back to here and track in the other direction. Okay, we have now tracked completely in both directions, and if we click on here, we can go to the transparency. So we can see that we got our little flaw here. And this flaw is supposed to represent Ross's section of his video where his neck got too thin or pixelated. So we're going to go back up to here. And in fact, let's go over to here. And now let's pretend that at this point, this is where his neck is back in shape. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to erase that section. In other words, we're going to add, well, in this case, we're subtracting. Now, if something was missing, for example, okay, let's make the brush size just a little bit bigger so that we can, bigger than that, so that we can erase this more efficiently. Okay, and we got a little bit here, extra here. Okay, we will now see that we have 2 keyframes on the video clip, and we're going to, at this point, just assume that this was the only part of the video clip where this artifact appeared, or we did not have enough. In other words, I am subtracting, but in Ross's case, he said that his neck got too thin, so he would be using the smart brush to add that little bit that he didn't get on those particular frames. Now, to do just that frame, we start from this keyframe to this keyframe. We use this. Now we have tracked and we have eliminated this artifact here. And we can quickly move back and forth. We'll see here's the artifact. It disappears, and here it comes back. So the point of this exercise is that if you were missing something, you could actually go in and track between 2 keyframes and say, okay, oh, this is where I missed it. And this tool here allows you to expand the timeline. So if you're trying to find a particular frame where something starts disappearing, you can explode it right there. You can also just use your mouse like this, but this is the tool for expanding or decreasing the size. And then you can isolate the particular frames that you want to repair, and you're working on just a little bit. So that's the way that works. Now, I don't know if we talked about the edge and feathering. Ross did talk about how he feathered something in order to try to improve it. Basically, if you have this edge thickness here, you can increase the edge around you. So if something got cut out, you could then just all the way around, you could just increase it. That, of course, doesn't look particularly well, and that's when you use the feathering, and the feathering will allow you to blur that. Now, in this case, you probably don't want it this large. Typically, I would say you would set your feather at maybe like 2 pixels or 3 pixels or something like that, and feathering, you might do that up around 4 or 5 or something like that, just to make it slightly fuzzy, maybe even 3, I don't know. Let's see if we make it 3. Anyway, yeah, then this smooths it out. Now, if we zoom in on this, we can get a better feel for it. And let's use our hand to move it down. And now you can see we can work right down on the pixel level to see what it is that we want to include or exclude or feather or whatever. These are the tools. We can do it here. So the Smart Cutout gives you all the tools to work with that you need. However, I would say that the AI portrait mode does a very good job of picking out a person. But if you don't like the pixelation, use this tool instead, and then work your details on it. And don't forget to click Save once you're done.